Alright, so the project I have for you today is I created a hard drive which just uses Discord APIs as its backend. So in the bottom left, we do this with a tool called NBDKit, which lets you create block devices using unconventional means of storage. So we just run that. And in the bottom right, we run NBD client, which lets us connect to this hard drive and have it appear as just a regular block device. So after running NBD client, we can see that it appears as /dev/nbd0. And on the bottom left here, we can see that our operating system is already reading at a bunch of special addresses to try to get information about the partitioning and the partitioning and the file systems on this disk. And we can run lsblk, and we'll see that it appears here as an 11.6 gigabyte disk. However, our operating system has not detected the partition of this disk yet, so that doesn't appear yet because of how slow it is to just read messages off of a Discord API instead of trying to read them from an actual disk. Now, on the right here, we have the representation of the disk in a Discord channel, which appears completely blank, but it's actually just filled with blank Braille Unicode characters. But if we scroll up, we'll see the other Braille Unicode characters which do store actual data. Now, every single one of these characters has the convenient allegory of every dot representing a singular 1 or 0 stored on our disk. So you could sort of imagine this to be like a regular hard drive, and you can literally see every single 1 and 0 that is stored in it. Now, it does actually take some time for our operating system to detect that this disk can be plugged in and used. And so on the top left, you can see it hasn't appeared yet, so we do have to speed up the video a little bit in order to save you some time as we wait for this disk to appear. Alright, now our operating system has detected the file formatting and partitioning of the disk, so we could see it here on the top right as an 11.6 gigabyte internal drive, which is the same place that you'd see it if any other flash drive were plugged in, and so you can treat it like any other flash drive by simply double-clicking on it to mount it and waiting for it to mount. It is, of course, much slower, and this process of mounting it also takes several minutes because of how rate limited we are by Discord's API. So we do need to speed up this video once again for just another few minutes in order to wait for this drive to mount. Alright, and now that this drive is mounted, we can simply open it by double-clicking on it in order to view the files inside. It does take some time for our operating system to find the files. However, it's not so slow that we need to speed up the disk again. It'll just take a second of waiting. And these are all files which I have previously uploaded onto this disk, giving a bit of a glimpse of what kind of demos I've been doing with this disk. And now that it is simply like any other disk we could have plugged into our computer, we can treat it like any other disk we plugged into our computer by looking at its files and even uploading a new file. So I'm just going to copy this JPEG image and paste it in the disk. And in the bottom left, we will see that a bunch of writes are going to start happening in order to actually paste the disk. Now, it appears to have been written instantly, but this is just a convenient trick that our operating system plays on us in order to make things appear snappier and faster when the disk itself is still being written. In this case, it seems that we have hit a sector in which all of the messages have already been created, so we're adding messages instead of writing new messages. But while we're doing this, we can still see other files because our operating system has cached them for us. Unfortunately, we can't see all files though, because this video file, for example, it seems just too large to have immediately been cached. So when we try playing it, we don't get any progress just because our disk is busy now writing all the files and we don't have time to read any files. Now, the process of actually writing all of these files does take a very long time because we are rate limited by Discord's API. We are only allowed to write one message at a time, which does make sense for Discord's perspective. You wouldn't want someone to make bots that spam people. But trying to find exactly which messages it's editing is a bit of a fruitless endeavor. But it is kind of interesting to take a scroll through this and find different chunks of data that seems to be compressed or not compressed, depending on how random or how many consecutive characters of the same kind you can see. We are, of course, going to cut to several hours later now in order to save you the time of waiting for this write message to complete. Okay, so we can see now at the bottom left that all of our writes have completed. And now that our writes have completed, we can actually use this as a regular drive again and start watching videos off of it. Now, reading is much, much faster than writing, and in this case, it's so much faster that we can actually watch the video playback in real time. And it's kind of crazy to think about that. We're just sitting here watching a video, but in the background, our computer is sending out a whole bunch of Discord API calls in order to read Discord messages and parse that and get the video in real time. Which it's not really doing anything that differently than it would be doing with a regular hard drive, although with a regular hard drive, you have the convenience of it being much, much faster and locally accessible. We aren't that much faster though than the video playback requires, which you can see by if you skip ahead, it actually does take a little bit of time for the video to buffer as our operating system needs to read the messages that correspond to where your cursor playback is happening instead of just where the beginning of the video is. But now we can see that once we have caught up, we can go back to playing the video with a little bit of buffering that our disk can catch up on. And I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you about this disk. I will see you next time, hopefully with something cool or interesting.